Hello everyone. This video is called Ahoy Chaps, Take a Ride on My Sweet Valentine. Now, as I go through this video with you, it was a bit of a challenge for many reasons, and I'll explain that as I go through. I initially bought the MiniArt Tank Riders kit beforehand, and I wanted to plan a diorama with it. I then found on a swap meet a Valentine tank, a dragon tank, and I thought, yeah, that'll be my opportunity to make this diorama. The dragon kit had the label VM on it, and when I opened it up, it was a fine looking kit. But I also noticed that it wasn't your typical dragon kit, and it was initially made in Russia. Well, I thought, okay, for $20 it was very good value, and I have a great fondness for British armour. The photos here are examples of Valentine tanks with tank riders. And I think MiniArt must have used these particular photos to base their figures on. And I must say that, really suits the tank. When I make model kits, there's always the dilemma, do you paint as you go, or do you paint things afterwards? And I think the actual model dictates that. I thought I would paint as I go, as I can put in details along the way, and then when you build it, you really can't see the details, but I know they're there. Now, the kit in general is quite good, but as I was putting the wheels onto the tank chassis, I noticed that the wheels were not aligned. That was going to be a little bit of a problem. Also, the model had this slot in which the bogies could fit in, and that caused a little bit of a problem as well in terms of fitting the wheels. Now, the major problem that I found with this kit was that when the parts were fit on the tank, the bottom wheels were not level. And I'm a pretty experienced modeler, and this was purely due to the design of the model itself. And yeah, that caused a bit of a problem for me. I decided that what I would do is I would represent the tank going through ruts or a hilly part of the desert. I don't know what VM is, the Russian manufacturer. I don't know if somebody out there could let me know. I tried to look at various websites, but I couldn't find this out. It was quite disappointing in this part of the build. I used SMS Super Silver paint. Now it applies very nicely. However, if you put it in a tray, you get this very weird effect with the paint as it probably oxidizes with the atmosphere, and it's so freaky. Now, I used Vallejo's Paints Rust for the exhaust. I wasn't quite happy with it because it made it look very coppery, but then I used another one of its products, and it was a much better effect with the rust. Another negative aspect to the kit was that when I put on the turret and tried to dry fit it on, there was a tab that blocked its movement. I had to cut out that tab so that the turret could actually face forward. Now, in the preparation of the figures, I go through a little bit of a process. Firstly, I rough cut the pieces off the sprue with an older set of cutters, and you notice that a bit of the sprue is attached. Then what I do is I use my newer cutters to carefully cut out the attached sprue. I don't like doing it on the sprue itself because you can cut out bits of chunk off the actual item. And then what I do is I scrape the residual molding with a knife, and then I use very fine grit emery paper to clean up the rest. Now, the big bonus was actually the MiniArt kits. Now, I can't say enough about them. They are, fantastic sculpts. The poses also are really good, and they fit really nicely. Now, with these kits, because of their poses, I had to construct the models first and then paint afterwards. Now, that had a bit of a problem because reaching different parts of the model was a little awkward at times. I also used a copious amount of liquid Tamiya cement so that the parts could fuse together and make a natural look about itself. The slings are all made with paper. I find that paper is so easy to work with in this case. Put a little loop and cut out like a millimeter wide amount of paper and super glue it, because that makes it stick really nicely. Now, this character was really interesting because the facial features reminded me of Burt Lancaster. Like I said, the sculpting on these figures are fantastic. Now, for my paints, I reuse a lot of plastic before I throw it out. So the chocolates were a present to my wife, so bonus on both ends. I get the tray and she gets the chocolates, and I get my modelling time in peace. Now, the tank driver in the kit had a helmet, which I didn't like, so I decided to replace the head with other heads that I had, and I replaced it on there, and I also cut out the mic from one of the hands that I had, and I attached wires to it as well. On the Minecraft kit, the tank commander does have quite muscular forearms, and it looks very effective there. With painting the flesh on the models, I used Vallejo's tan earth as the base colour. As it was in the desert, the soldiers would tan quite significantly, and in the 35th scale, I don't put whites in their eyes. I just use shadows and highlights for the models. The only other thing I tend to do is also just put a bit of pink on the lips as well. I bought very dense foam from the hardware shop. It was pink in colour, but it was very good, and I also recently purchased a hot wire cutter. What I did was I applied the ruts so that it would fit the wheels. Then I put plaster on top. I put some sand on top because at this scale, the sand basically is like very small rocks. And then I put some wrap on top, and I press the model firmly on top of the diorama base. The other issue that I had with this kit was the very poor decals. The Harry name was all separate lettering, so I had to very quickly try to apply that onto the tank, and also one of the red and white banners broke apart. Fortunately, I did have another kit with similar decals, so I substituted those. And when I then did apply the dusting later, it sort of covered all the little problems with the decals. I then did a dry run putting the figures on top of the tank just to see where the position was suitable for them. I decided not to put any figure on top of the muffler because that would be extremely hot and painful for anybody sitting there. Yeah, I think it suits the tank very well. Now, the kit instructions for the colouring of the equipment and the uniforms I wasn't quite happy with, so I searched the internet for some other examples. I decided that the uniforms themselves should be very pale and linen-like, and the bags and the other equipment were more sand-like. I did decide to put in the epaulets of the Desert Rat logo, and I printed out some very small little squares, and then I actually superglued it onto the models themselves so it conformed to the model more closely. It looks good. Just as I thought I was finished with the diorama, I had a little bit of a problem because what I did was there was a gap in between the baseboard and the foam, and I used a bit of Tamiya model putty to try to fill in the gap. Well, of course, what happened was that the putty actually ate through the foam a bit. Fortunately, I was able to salvage it by applying more coats of the plaster on the side until it was very smooth. So I had to put like about three or four coats of plaster on the side. Then I smoothed it, then I sprayed it, and I was quite happy with the result. The lettering was just basically lettering on a laser printer and attaching it to the side. So let me know what you think about the diorama in the comments. I'd be really happy to see what you think about it. Yeah, so enjoy.